Hi, my name is Ronnie, and in this video I'm talking about VUMeters. So, why do I use a VUMeter? And reason number one is a very practical and simple one. I just can't keep track of what's going on my master sitting there all the time. It's just out of sight too often. And since music is in the end coming out of the speaker, I want to keep track of what I'm doing, really. And I just can't be with my mind and my eyes actually right over here all the time. And I also find the standard display a little bit too small. So even though we can do this, then we might run into other problems when we are dealing with a number of clips and stuff like that. It just might occupy too much space, or if too many windows are open, stuff like that. That's really why I like having a meter that I can move around to just keep in check with my levels. That's it. The second reason is a very simple one as well. Plugins are portable between hosts. I'm switching between Ableton and Bitwig sometimes. Maybe you switch too, or you're mastering your tracks somewhere or whatever. And for this, I find having a reliable set of tools I can use everywhere vitally important. Simple as that. Number three is a VUmeter's reading is much more musical to me. If you're looking at what's going on here, there's a lot. The Ableton meters, they also have some kind of SPL VUmeter-ish display of the energy of the track. But then on top, it gets a little bit hysterical, and the VUmeter is really focusing on the energy of my material because it's slow. I mean, it needs roughly exactly 300 milliseconds to rise and fall, and thus it doesn't display all the peaks, but more like the energy that's going on. And yeah, that's to me much more appealing. It's groovy. It's really groovy. That's what I like about it. Reason number four, it's great for editing and making mixed decisions, especially for the low end. I'll give you an example. So let's put this all together. If I'm, for example, EQing this track here, just this low tom in context, and I start throwing in stuff, I don't really get much visual feedback, which is okay. But however, to me, low-end mixing is also about making decisions how much energy I want to shift to the low end, and sometimes it's really about cleaning up the mess a little bit. And for this, just relying on your ears is okay, but if you are, I don't know, 3 hours into mixing stuff, it's just you get ear fatigue and maybe you don't trust your judgment. So now just switching on and off this EQ has an impact. How am I going to read this here? I mean, I can do that. Let's see where we are at right now. It peaks around 14.2. Let's disable that. So that's it. Just this EQ has an impact of a decibel right now. And I don't want to keep looking at that all the time. And that's why VUmeter somewhere on the screen has proven to be very useful to me. So let's check again. Without. I can see how my edits are affecting the overall energy of my track in a much easier and more direct way. Now, let's try something else. Let's just, for the sake, make some stupid stuff, and you can instantly see how it affects the overall groove. This edit, I mean, you can obviously hear it, but getting some kind of visual feedback about what's going on is just, to me, very good way to get some kind of verification. And that's how I'm very often cleaning up my low end, making edits to see how they impact and make more informed mix decisions, really. Yeah. For the next reason, which is phase issues, let's assume I'm working on this track for 5 hours already. I've been zooming in on details here and there, and I've been tweaking a lot of stuff. My ears are a little bit fatigued, my concentration is a little bit bogus, and I'm deciding there is this tom element here which is going on my nerves, and I want to change it. So let's disable that. I want to have another bass line, and I'm throwing in an instance of analog, which is just playing along with the kick. Yeah, let's see what happens. For one, it's too loud, and then I start adjusting the volume so that things are smoothly peaking around 0, and I can see it's not constant, which is a hint you have a phase issue. So, and we can really see that the needle is a little bit jumping all over the place, because it's a sine bass and the kick is low in material and it's a very low note, and analog is instable over time, because that's what it's supposed to do. And yeah, that's how we have this phase alignment problem. Now, what can I do? Instead of using analog, use operator. Let's try to adjust that. Steady, because it doesn't drift. It's just a very good tool to align bass. Really, we can check that out. Let's assume I've got it playing with the bass right now, and I want this to hit steady. Let's make this a little bit louder. And this isn't the default setting of operator. Let's, for the sake of fun, put it there, and it feels a little bit off, and we can see it. Let's just verify that with the waveform display here. No, yeah, feels a little bit sluggish, like there is some energy missing. So let's just align the phase to 50, and it still feels a little bit odd. Now reverse it. about right. No more itchy fluctuations here. Problem solved. And that's another thing which is great as a first pointer to have just open instead of looking at the tiny meter on the master all the time. It's just nothing I can possibly be in check as much as I can be in check with something with this screen estate wherever I want it. So, point made, I guess. And on to the final reason, which is a little bit hard to explain, but maybe you know the situation that you are working on a track, and if you are working close to zero and you're trying to mix the track or add elements and somehow they are not loud enough and the energy doesn't feel right, and you start to add compression and distortion and whatever, I find it really hard in that context to make decisions without having the impression of giving up loudness. I would possibly have to turn down stuff, and once I'm close to the limit, I'm in this top-down mindset where I feel like I'm losing something. It's a compromise. Things are getting less. And I mean, it is less. If I have to turn down stuff, it's less than before. And maybe over time I started liking the more. So that's something I really want to prevent myself from getting to. This point of where I start brute forcing compression in, and that's why I like this bottom-up approach, which, I mean, if you're using a VUMeter calibrated to -18, which I think is the way to go because analog emulations are also calibrated to work with levels around -18 dB. 18 dB before they start saturating or distorting, you always have room. There is much more space you can work with without this compromise of this is less. And that's really a mindset thing that when I started using a VUMeter because I wanted to make more informed mix decisions, that it became much more easy for me to make good or better sounding mixes than before, simply because I wasn't pushing my levels so hard. It was just more easy and fluently to get somewhere loud, and that's my main reason to use a VUMeter, really. That's what I mean when I'm saying stay the fuck away from zero. Really, you might end up with better sounding music because you're not attached to loud. And with this I conclude my reasons to use a VUMeter. I hope you find it useful. So with that, have a very nice evening or morning or whenever.